What is up, everyone? Good morning. It's your host again, Carlos Ponce here. This is episode 15 of Advancio Talks, and we are live today with Jason Crawforth, who is the founder and CEO of Swear.com. And I'm going to let him introduce himself in a minute. Thank you, Jason, for being with us on the show. Let me tell you something a little bit about Advancio Talks. If you are just discovering us, welcome. But if you've been here since the beginning, since 2022, well, you know what we are about. We're here, we sit down with the people actually building the future of business and technology, not just talking about it, but doing it. You know, CTOs, founders, the folks making decisions that matter. So whether you're drinking coffee, commuting, or just curious about what's actually happening in tech, stick around because Jason's got stories and insights you want to hear anywhere else. Jason, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Carlos. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Sure, it's our pleasure, Jason. So let's I would say that we should definitely start with you. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, your journey, anything you want to say about yourself. Who is Jason Crawforth?
Sure. I have been a tech entrepreneur for about 33 years, coming on 34. Built multiple companies. One of my previous companies was honored by Inc. magazine as one of the 500 fastest growing companies in America. In fact, we were 130th and the 18th fastest growing IT company in the early to mid 2000s. I had an exit back in the mid 2000s and was semi-happily retired for a few years, but decided to come out of retirement to solve a problem that we'll talk about today. But my journey has always been in tech, starting businesses, and just always enjoying solving problems with technology.
Awesome, incredible. So yeah, and technology is what we are about here in Advancio Talks. So how about the company itself, Swear.com? What was the genesis of the moment when you felt that you should build a company or lead the company to where it is today? What problem are you solving right now? Or what is your value proposition?
Sure, that's a great question. So while like I said, I was semi-happily retired, I was looking for the next thing I wanted to focus on. And what I started to observe was three things happening at once. The first is that we've been enjoying the information age for decades. And information is the new currency of the world. The largest companies use it to market, to brand, to message, to influence, to entertain, to educate. What I was also happening is the ability to manipulate media. I'm talking video, photo, and audio, but I'll say video for most of this. But to be able to manipulate digital media, to be able to weaponize information. And that I started seeing the entrance of the disinformation age. We've always had disinformation to be able to manipulate, deceive, defraud, and to influence. But the volume and the velocity of content that we're producing and consuming, just to give you a sense of scale, 20 million videos are uploaded every day, and over 70 billion videos are watched on YouTube alone. Mm-hmm. That doesn't include all the other social media channels, the private things that we create, produce, and a lot of the internal video, images, and audio that businesses and governments produce to be able to substantiate processes, validate, reduce exposure. There's an enormous amount of content. And the ability for us to stay on top of what's actually being produced and knowing if it's real or not was becoming a greater challenge. So I was watching this happen. And the third thing is that with the advances in AI, and I knew that the ability to manipulate digital media, video, photos, and audio, were going to become more democratized, and they were going to be perpetually getting better and better. And I saw this a decade ago. And that was the genesis of Swear, because I knew what was going to happen is that there's really 4 ways to fight against something like this. And I'll use the colloquial term deepfakes, which for the audience that don't know that, that's the use of artificial intelligence to create or manipulate video, audio, and images that are hyper realistic, that are already past what humans can detect. And what Swear was is that I looked at this and I said, well, there are 4 ways that you can fight against deepfakes. The first one is education. This is important, but this is a very uphill battle. People have a tendency to believe what they see and hear. We're wired for that. We also have a tendency to believe our own narratives. And so education is not where I wanted to focus, Swear. The second is legislation. Good luck with that. I'm going to let other people focus on that. The third was using defensive methods, trying to identify things as fake and discredit them. So using forensics. And although this seems like the most obvious answer, and I knew the technology industry was going to focus on this, it's unfortunately a perpetual game of cat and mouse and whack-a-mole. And you're basically betting against artificial intelligence. And that's not something I think is a good bet. So while that's important, and a lot of companies are focusing on that, that is not where Swear focuses. And this is where the concept of Swear came in, is can we go on the offense? Can we create AI-resistant and quantum-resistant digital recordings? Can we future-proof content while it's happening in real time, whether it's a body cam, a security cam, a smartphone? Doesn't matter if someone's in a conflict zone or at a political rally. Can we take digital content and can we protect it in a way that it is impossible to modify without detection? And that was the genesis of Swear. We, I hired some tech folks. We spent a couple of years, developing it, doing a bunch of R&D, and we realized that we were able to do it. It's based upon, and I can talk about this in a little bit about, there's 6 foundational, there's 6 foundations that we built this upon, because if you're going to try to create something that's AI resistant and quantum resistant, it has to be strong. So after we started, I formed Swear 8.5 years ago, and we started building this, started acquiring patents. We just got our 13th patent. We have many other pending patents. And the biggest challenge that we've faced at Swear, and I faced, is just having patience. We knew we were very early to the game. And so it's been a very interesting journey with Swear, starting Swear, knowing that we were years ahead of where the problem was going to be. But here we are today, and it's starting to enter into the national conversation. Deepfakes are.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of deepfakes recently, and there's a bunch of people, especially on places like LinkedIn, sharing really. I don't know what adjective to use, but I would probably use beyond amazing. I think it's worrying at the same time, right? Because you can use deepfakes for not just for good, but also for other not so good things. So let me ask you something. We're discussing digital authenticity, right? How would you say that this mission aligned with building trust in today's remote first business environment?
That's a good question, Carlos. So, trust has been something that we have, as the tech industry has moved forward. Trust is a very interesting term. As we have the ability to manipulate reality at a much greater scale, it's creating a challenge for us. Artificial intelligence is a very powerful tool. It can do many, many powerful things. What we have to start doing is, when something is created like that, we also have to look at the dark side of it. How can something be used in a way, weaponized? I've used this term before, but how can it be used to cause chaos, to manipulate reality? And it's not necessarily, that's targeting the famous people of the world. They're trying to swing elections, which they can do. But this technology is starting to be used to be able to go after the common person, to fake voices and audio of their loved ones and trying to get credit card information. There's a variety of ways this is happening. And now it's starting to advance in ways where people are taking car cams and they're staging a crash. And then they're taking the green and red lights and switching them and being able to get insurance payouts. There's a lot of ways in which we have to be very careful with the authenticity of content. Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to say that it's one of the challenges that I think we face in our world. It's not just about protecting pixels or sound bites. That's the what of a recording. Right. You also need to be able to protect the when, where, how, and even who recorded it. And I'll just give you an example. There's been some protests in Los Angeles over the last month or so. And what people were doing is they were submitting videos of, some destruction during those riots. And those videos were 100% real. 100% real. The problem is that they were from the George Floyd protests. Mm-hmm. And so because if you don't actually protect and map the full context, this creates a problem for the authenticity and the truth. It's more than just what you're recording. It's the full context that we have to protect. Mm-hmm.
So when you mention the full context, can you be a little bit more specific what the context entails?
Sure. So let's say, for example, let's take a smartphone. Normally you take a photo or video and it's recording it. But there's a lot of other attribution data, metadata that we can use to create layers of information that help guarantee when and where that recording happened. For example, we can tap into GPS locations. We can take that information and we can map that directly into the video. We can also detect which cell phone tower we're connected to, the Earth's geomagnetic field that's unique to that location. There's a lot of information that we can capture at the same time it's being recorded and mapping it into the recording itself so that we can create a full context. That's the one I'm talking about, the full context. Mm-hmm. So it's the where did it happen? We can also go grab the world clock time. We can look at what satellites are over our head because they're very unique, cycles, so that we'll be able to go back and map. And we know that happened at that location at that time. Mm-hmm. And so that's the full context. We can also use biometric information, facial recognition. There's a lot of things, so we know who recorded it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by full context: the when, the where, the how, and even the who recorded.
Totally get it. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So this is a very intriguing technology. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I don't have an engineering background, but although I understand the lingo because I've been in the industry in other areas for long, but still, a lot of it, especially the most recent ones, are a little bit, for me as a layman, are more on the esoteric side. Be it, for example, the swears technology or AI. So let me ask you a question from the layman for the layman, mm-hmm. So that it's easily understandable for the layman's perspective. And how is swears technology? How would you say that it will transform industries that rely heavily on verified digital credentials and portfolios?
Sure. So right now, let me just paint a picture of the technologies that are available for us to protect content. You have watermarking, you have encryptions, you have public-private keys. These are technologies that have existed for decades. The challenge is that there's been technologies outside of those that have advanced very rapidly. And so what SWEAR does is it creates a new evidentiary standard. We refer to our technology the premise of our technology is that we map the digital DNA of the recording. So what Swear does, what makes it unique, is the first and foremost, it has to be done in real time. From the time that a photon hits a camera lens, we have to, whether it's a body cam, a security cam, or a smartphone, or if it's being streamed to a VMS, a video management system, we need to be able to protect that recording in less than a few seconds, because if you give time, you have the ability to manipulate it.
Right.
The second thing that makes Swear unique is the full context. While a lot of defensive and forensic methods try to determine if something's fake, Swear doesn't do that. It's embedding the full context, the when, the where, the how, things that forensic methods can't detect. We're embedding that into the recording. The third thing that we do that makes Swear unique is that the digital asset, the video, the photo, or the image, is not exclusively its own security. Now, this is an important part, because when you use watermarking or encryption, the file becomes its own security. What we do is we create an independent notary. We take the DNA of the video that maps every pixel, every frame, and every soundbite, and we take that DNA and we store it remotely. We separate the accountant from the auditor. That's about as best layman terms as I can do, that you create this independent notary. So that's the third thing that we do. The fourth thing is based upon the title of this, the Web3 blockchain, is we needed to store that independent notary. We needed to make that immutable, completely unbreakable and unchangeable. So we write that DNA out into a distributed ledger like blockchain, or whatever technology becomes more powerful than blockchain. And we take that DNA and we just spread it across a bunch of servers that stay in sync. The fifth thing that makes us unique is that our content is we protect privacy. We don't actually ever see the video or the audio or the image. It's just the DNA, the fingerprints of every frame. You can't use that DNA. It's like a drop of blood. You can't take that DNA and recreate the person. The only way you know whose blood that is when you find the person that has the same DNA. It's the same way with the video. We just have a bunch of numbers out there, and until we actually find a video that matches, that's how we do it. So we maintain privacy because we don't know what you're recording. I don't know if you're recording a murder scene, someone at a rally, or your boss saying something inappropriate. Don't know. But you run it through our technology and it recreates all those fingerprints and compares them to what was stored out there. You can map it. If you change a single pixel in a 30-minute video, I will tell you that 1 second is not original. I don't know what changed because I never saw the original, but we can tell you it's not the same.
Gotcha.
And then the last thing that makes Swear unique is that it's scalable. It's platform independent. Doesn't matter if it's a body cam or a security cam, a car cam, a voting machine, a smartphone, iPhone, Android. It doesn't matter. Our technology is platform independent.
Cool.
So it's kind of a broad brush, but if you want to create something that's AI resistant, you have to create something that has all those 6 things. It's got to be real time. It's got to be full context. It's got to be, you got to separate the accountant from the auditor. You got to protect the notary. You got to protect privacy, and you have to be scalable and platform independent.
Right.
So it's not an easy answer because it's a complex problem. Solve it with an eloquent solution of boiling it down to those 6 basic elements.
Absolutely. Yeah, lots of moving parts, as they say, right? So you mentioned, when I was listening to you, you mentioned blockchain integration. So, or you mentioned blockchain. So how would you say that blockchain makes a digital asset truly unbreakable if you compare it to traditional verification methods?
Sure. So, we were very agnostic as to which technology we use in the back end. And it was very quick that we knew that blockchain was the technology that creates the best way to protect the authenticity of any type of data, not just video, audio, and image security data. So the reason that we like blockchain is, first of all, you're writing it across multiple servers. 50 servers at once, or 100 are receiving the DNA. and they're all staying in sequence. And you create what's called a Merkle tree. Without getting too technical, what you do is you have a link in the chain that has a hash for 1 second of the video, the fingerprints, the DNA. What you do is you create the next link that has a little bit of the prior link in it, and the DNA of the next frame of the video. And you create this Merkle tree that if anyone tries to go in and change anything, first of all 50 servers have to be in sync. If you change it across a few of the servers, they'll be taken off the network. They're not in sync. But if you try to change one of those, it messes up all the links down the line. It's what makes cryptocurrencies work. It's the same concept, except that we're not mining. We don't do that. What we're doing is the cameras are creating the chains in the block, and it creates it so that it's impossible to modify. I mean, when I say impossible, you can't modify it, especially when you've got 50, hundreds of servers out there. And one thing to say about the blockchain networks, these are private/public blockchains. You know, the surveillance industry may have their own blockchain. The Department of Defense or Department of War, whatever they're called now, they would have their own blockchain. So you have all these different groups that would have their own blockchains that have the ability to maintain the authenticity of data.
Okay.
Hopefully I didn't get too technical there, but
no, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I'm not an engineer, but it's also an educational process for me to have these conversations. So I thank you for taking the time to elaborate. Now, I am assuming that as in everything else, or like in a lot of things out there, not everything is easy or seamless or milk and honey. I am assuming that you experience your fair amount of challenges, right? So what challenges, especially technical challenges, did you face when merging digital media with Web3 technology, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Sure. Well, one of the first questions I get asked by people is like, what's the volume of data that we're writing out there? And so what we did is we created, one of the challenges we had to do is to reduce the amount of data that it takes to protect the authenticity of content. And what we were able to do is we were able to get that down to about 1 megabyte for 1 hour of video. So because you have environments, let's talk about the security industry. They have video management systems that have thousands of cameras going to each server. If we want to be able to protect that, it has to be tiny bits of data that are leaving their environment. We can't, those videos are gigabytes, of data, of video data for 5 minutes is a gig of data. But what we do is, because of the DNA that we're mapping, it's 1 megabyte per hour. So little tiny bits of data to go out there to store in blockchain, because one, we didn't want blockchain to just become explosively large, but two, we needed to have enough information to be able to protect the visual, the audio, and then any sort of metadata that we have. A second challenge that we solved, which I think is one of our more innovative approaches, and several of our patents are around this, is where do you actually store the metadata? The GPS, the world clock time, the Earth's geomagnetic field. Where do we store all that data? Because we didn't want to create a separate database. So what we did is we came up with an innovative approach. When you're watching Netflix and you say, show us all the subtitles, and you see French, German, Italian, and Spanish. Those are all channels that run in parallel with a video. So you only see the visual and you hear the audio unless you turn on one of those channels. Then you see the French or Italian subtitles. What we do is we take all the metadata that we capture every second and we write it into one of those channels. So the GPS, so every second, or the direction you're pointing the phone, the compass, we take that information and we write that into every single second of a video. And then we take that and we map that DNA and we write that out to blockchain. So that way, if you try to change the location or the timestamp, we can tell that's changed. So what we did is we actually made the recording its own database. And that was a big breakthrough for us, because again, the full context is important. And we're able to, the term's hashing, we cryptographically hash the visual, the audio, and the metadata channels in real time while it's recording. You can be 15 seconds into a recording. The prior, 14 or 13 and a half seconds have already been fingerprinted, including that metadata. And that was tough to do because you're doing this while it's recording. You're writing that information in there.
Mm-hmm.
So those were two of our biggest challenges and our breakthroughs: volume of content and how to protect all the full context, the attribution data.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for shedding some light into that matter and sharing how you overcame those challenges. Hopefully others will listen and learn as well. So tell me something. We're approaching the final segment of today's conversation, but I still have a couple of questions that I think are relevant. Which is, the first one is the industries. What industries are showing the most interest in unbreakable digital assets, the verification, and why?
Great question. So the short answer to that is the security and surveillance industry. This is an industry that has a very high reliance on security footage, body cams, security cams, car cams, and they utilize that information to reduce exposure and validate processes, etc. So because of that high reliance, we started developing our technology for that industry. And last year at the largest security and surveillance conference in the world, it's called ISC West, the International Security Conference West. We submitted our technology into it's called the Security Industry Association's new products and solutions. It's 100 entries. All the companies, the biggest companies in the security industry, submit their best new technology. There's 100 companies. You have Honeywell, Samsung, Motorola, etc. We won the judge's choice. And so the industry started recognizing that we have a solution that can help them greatly take the next step in evidentiary standards. I think what's happening, people in the industry are starting to recognize the power of AI and how it's going to be able to manipulate their digital content. And eventually, the legal system, not just in the US, but around the world, as more high-tech fake video, audio, and images are submitted as evidence, you're going to have a new evidentiary standard to be able to submit your content as evidence. And the security industry is quickly recognizing that. And that's why, again, this year at the same conference, we won the cybersecurity product of the year. So that's our first industry. And then we will quickly start working with subsequent industries that have a high reliance on surveillance. A high reliance on the authenticity of digital content. That could be transportation, logistics, medical, insurance, eventually social media platforms, as well as smartphones. We think at Swear that every smartphone should be able to, when people record something, if they're in a conflict zone or they're having an interaction with, military or police, that people should have the ability to record content and prove that it's authentic. So I think that's where our ultimate goal is. We're going to focus on high needs industry first, the most vulnerable.
Yeah, we're talking about authentic verification, right? So how do you see? That's my last question: is how do you see AI generated content and deepfakes impacting the need for authentic verification in professional settings?
Sure. Well, just to give you a sense of scale, about 7 years ago, they needed 30 minutes of you speaking in your native language. And in 30 minutes, you'll make every sound in your native language. And then they could piece that together to make an audio recording of you or any CEO or executive or leader of any organization, public or private. 30 minutes, they could make you say anything. Admit to accepting a bribe, committing a crime, that your current product is, causing harm to people, but your insurance will cover it. Anything like that, 30 minutes. How much time do you think they need of your voice today with AI?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to take? They needed 30 minutes of your voice about 7 years ago to fake it. How much time do you think of your voice today do you think they need?
I would guess seconds. 3 seconds. Wow.
3 seconds. So all they need is, hi, you've reached my phone. I'm currently unavailable.
Boom.
Can make you say anything, Carlos. Now and you can see that that's how much AI has advanced the ability to manipulate. That's just audio. Video has progressed just as much. I mean, they used to have problems with videos blinking. Now they have micro heartbeats in the videos. They also have blood flow patterns and reflections in glasses and eyes. They're already past what humans can detect, and they'll be past what computers can detect here in the near future. So going back to your question is, why is it important to protect this from the business world? Well, let me expand it. I mean, our goal at Swear is to protect reputations, relationships, elections, to reduce conflicts. There's a lot of things that we can do with our technology if people know that what they're watching is the truth. Ultimately, when someone uploads a video to YouTube, we want to have it so that it goes through and it recreates all the DNA of Swear's videos, and will show you that this is a real video. While all the other content can be manipulated, our stuff cannot be. And if it is, we'll show you which part has been manipulated.
Wow.
So I think that's the power. It's not just businesses, it's also governments, it's elections, it's relationships, it's cap tables of businesses. We think we can make a big change with Swear.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna become the notary of the internet and you're gonna call yourself Swear, and yes, we do own the domain swear.com. I get asked that often. Yeah, I mean, we're very serious in what our intentions are. We've been very focused on this, quietly building this for over 8.5 years, and we are bringing our first enterprise products to market next month, actually.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't help. I was listening to you, and I couldn't help but go back to the early days. So you might remember that video that became viral. It was Will Smith eating spaghetti, right? The early days, and it was, of course, it was ridiculous because you looked at it and you thought, this is absurd. I mean, this can't be happening now. But now, if you see one, you're kind of wondering, hey, that is really Will Smith eating spaghetti, right? And it has gone that far as credibility, and hence the need to, of course, find foolproof ways of making something that's totally authentic, and we can prevent a lot of headaches in today's busy and conflicted world. So anyway, well, Jason, it's been great to have you talk about this. It's exciting because it's something that we see every day. Like every single day, we're exposed to some kind of AI generated content or videos or information. So this is absolutely great to have in mind. It's, folks, if you're watching, just be on the lookout for all these wonders of technology that can be a little bit confusing and intriguing at the same time. So thank you absolutely for Jason for having been with us. How can people get a hold of you, and what about you or the company?
Sure. Obviously, you can visit swear.com. Also on LinkedIn, we're updating our content
right there.
Every day.
Just sliding.
So if you go to linkedin.com/company/swear.com, or just do a search for Swear on LinkedIn, you'll find us. It's the blue logo with the white hand. Swear to tell the truth.
Yeah, I saw that logo. It was cool. So there you have it, folks. It's swear.com, and also on LinkedIn, it's right there. linkedin.com/company/swear.com, but with letters, with the actual .com words. So it's right there, folks. You reach out to Jason, and he'll get back to you at his convenience. And Jason, it's been great to have you on the show again. Let me just make a quick announcement of what's coming. If you're watching and you want to know what's coming here on Advancio Talks, make sure you visit advanciotalks.com/tech talks. So the calendar of upcoming events or talks it'll be right there on that URL. So if you're curious, if you want to know what's going on in the tech and the biz world, just make sure you go there, visit, and as they say, mark your calendars. So again, thank you, Jason, for having been with us on the show. And the rest of
Thank you, Carlos. Very much appreciated. Thank you for
my
your time.
pleasure. Jason, stay with me as we go off the air, and the rest of you, see you next time.